welcome everyone to the December meeting of the Mendocino Coast Audubon Society, which is being held obviously by Zoom, and that's because it's David and I thought it was the easiest way to do this presentation and to get the most number of people involved in it, and it worked pretty well the last couple of 3 years that way, so we're going to carry on with that. Don't have a whole lot of preliminary Mendocino Coast Audubon Society business to do, as usual. And because we aren't in person, I can't do the usual interaction with the audience. And so I hope that there are at least some new people joining us tonight, and hopefully a number of returning people who have studied up and are ready to take the quiz show and drinking game with us. It's been a lot of fun the last years. So for those who aren't familiar, our two presenters tonight are myself. My name is Tim Bray. I'm the current president of the Mendocino Coast Audubon Society, and David Jensen, who is the past president of the Mendocino Coast Audubon Society. We tend to hog the spotlight for this 1 month every year, doing this presentation and getting people primed for the Christmas bird counts. So we may as well get started talking about those, and that means that we can start our presentation. As soon as my computer decides it's going to let me. All right. So this will be our 13th official Fort Bragg Christmas bird count. There was a trial run before that, so it's actually 14, but this will be our 13th official go round. And David has pointed out that I actually got this wrong on the sheet, and this will be the 50th Manchester Christmas count. Is that right, David?
That is correct. This count started back in 1973, in December of 73. So, yeah, it's number 50.
That's amazing.
It's actually the first one in Mendocino. Ukiah's count started a couple of years later.
Uh-huh. And do you know who actually started the Manchester count?
Lost to the annals of time, but it seems that it was a couple of folks who worked either for parks or for Fish and Game, as they were known at the time, who were working down in the Point Arena, Manchester area. And a couple of years later, some of the folks who are currently part of Peregrine in Ukiah joined in, and that's as close as we can get to the original people.
Well, they're both fun counts, and I hope that people are all excited about them. Let's get started here. This is what the Fort Bragg Circle looks like. It runs basically from the south bank of Big River, a little bit further than that, but not much, north all the way up to Little Valley Road, north of Cleone, and just barely includes Little Valley itself. So you can see a bunch of different areas. The blue lines mark the different areas, each of which has an area leader. So it's divvied up, and if you want to join up, you get in touch with me and I will assign you to a team. We have 8 different areas, but there are multiple sub areas, so there's at least 10 different teams going out, maybe 12. And so you get a lot of opportunities to go either walking or driving or bicycling, possibly kayaking, and if the weather's good, we'll take the Kraken out and try to find seabirds. So a lot of different opportunities. Just get in touch with me. That's audubon@mcn.org. And there's the Manchester Circle. David, do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, it goes from north of Elk, right around Cuffy's Cove, all the way down to Arena Point. We have a team that looks for seabirds at the base of the lighthouse there. It's centered at Malo Pass Creek, around just north of Irish Beach. And there's, I believe, 7 territories, 7 leaders. It's a difficult count in that it's really sequestered right along the highway. And we're hemmed in by a lot of private land holdings now to which we don't have access. But there's good birding down there, and if anyone would care to participate in that count, um, you can contact me. The information's in the most recent newsletter. And I think maybe my contact information is on the Audubon Society website as well. So feel free to give me a call.
Right. And if you don't want to go out tramping around in the lovely balmy weather that we always get on Christmas bird counts, and you want to just stay home, then that's good too, because we get a lot of really valuable data from the feeder count. So here is the information on how to join that. And Johanna's going to be coordinating that again this year for this is several years in a row. And we often get at least one species of bird that is
Mhm.
found on a yard or feeder count that nobody saw in the field. So it's definitely valuable information for us to get and really fun. It's got its own protocols and checklists. So get a hold of Johanna if you want to do that, and she'll get you all the information.
Again, at home, you can participate for the length of time that you choose. You don't have to be out all day. So it's an advantage.
And before we get into the birds, if you have not already, this was a project David and I undertook a couple of years ago and created a series of birding tutorial videos specifically focused on the winter birds of the Mendocino Coast, and great way to sort of practice up and get ready for field birding. If there are specific kinds of birds that you need to refresh on, we broke it up into a whole bunch of different videos so that you're not locked into a 2 hour presentation like you are with us. Although if you want that, there is, I think, two different versions of this presentation recorded and available on YouTube as well that are about 2 hours long, and you can just kind of go through at your own pace. So that's on the YouTube channel. Just look for Mendocino Audubon. All right, let us get started birding. So, of course, the Christmas bird counts begin at midnight and end at midnight, and a lot of us go out before dawn and try to find some owls to add to the list. So here is a before dawn, what you might hear if you're lucky. Okay, did everybody get that? I am not seeing the chat, so let me make that opened up. And I guess I forgot to let everybody know how this works. This is originally started as a slideshow, and then it became a slideshow and quiz, and then it became a slideshow, quiz, and drinking game. And we don't exactly have rules, but we do have guidelines, and you're free to make up your own rules since we can't actually see what you're doing. You can do anything you like. But basically, you attempt to identify each bird that we present on the slide. And if you can do so, congratulations. And if you can't, you can either say, I don't know, in which case you don't have to drink. But if you identify the bird and get it wrong, that's when you have to drink. Those are my rules. You can make up your own. And then use the chat for discussion on the side, since we can't really talk to each other on Zoom without getting into an awful cacophony. So you can go ahead and chat back and forth. And if you want to, you can enter your guesses in chat so that everyone can see where you're going with these things, and let us know if you're pausing for a drink. All right, so did everybody hear that last bird, and did everybody identify it? If you're still not sure, here's what it looks like in the early light. For some reason my system is not, there we go. So everybody knows this bird, right? This is a great yard bird. It is indeed a northern pygmy owl, and there are quite a few of them around, and they actually have been talking lately, so we could get lucky and you can hear these.
Hello, Tess McGuire,
Oh my gosh.
dialing in from Pennsylvania. She says it's late there, but hey, she's not doing anything anyway, so stay up all night.
Open the window, Tess, you can go birding. Owling. Okay, so here's a pretty easy one. Just you don't even need details. All you have to see is the outline. There's only one bird on the coast that's big, chunky, and has a square head. So there's your great horned owl.
If you thought that was a cat in the tree, take a drink.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Here we are at dawn, standing on the edge of the woods, from which we hear the most eerie sound. Everybody hearing that? Does that sound even remotely like a bird? It is a bird that is the local colloquial name is swamp robin. Here's a great photo from Roger. The one thing about this photo that's unlike the way you normally see them is that it's well lit. Swamp robins are birds of the shadows, usually found in the shade of big trees, and they're one of the few birds you'll find in way down on the forest floor, even in old growth forests. Varied thrush, gorgeous birds. Now it's full daylight, and we're starting to get into the really abundant birds. In some years, this is the most abundant bird on the Fort Bragg count. It is indeed a butterbutt, otherwise known as a yellow-rumped warbler. This one, because it has a bright yellow throat, is actually an Audubon's warbler, a rumpy. Here's another abundant bird on both counts, actually. You get a zillion of these in Manchester, I think, and their numbers fluctuate a lot up here. Uh, this is an unusual view, but I wanted to make it a little bit difficult, but obviously it's easy enough for the people in chat
Yeah.
nailing it. Yep, this is a white-crowned sparrow. You see nothing else but that bright yellow bill. That's all you need to know.
And the pale breast, unstriped breast.
Yeah. And then when people talk about little brown jobs, this is a classic little brown job. Not much in the way of field marks on these birds. But that's it. That is in itself a field mark. It's lacking all of the things that would make it something else. So it is indeed a golden crown, big, uh, medium brown, kind of dark gray birds, and very abundant this year. We have lots and lots of golden crowns on the coast. So the good thing, the thing with these, it's great that everybody's getting them right off the bat because you need to be able to identify them quickly and count them because they're in
Yeah.
flocks. And spend most of your time trying to figure out how many there are and then move on after sorting through the whole flock and making sure there isn't something else sneaking along with them. Here's a bird that tends to skulk around underneath the cover and down deep inside things like it is here, and is frequently heard long before you see it. They make a very loud chip call. Yes, indeed, this is the fox sparrow. All you need to see is that it's dark brown, the color of dark chocolate, and that big eye ring and those big triangular blotches on the chest. This is a pretty little guy. This is one of those that you look through the flocks of white crowns and golden crowns, hoping to find one of these sneaking along with them. Yeah, it's a white-throated sparrow, soul patch. They have that prominent white throat, the little yellow spot right between the eye and the bill, yellow lores. This is pretty subtle on this one. But the distinctions are subtle, but they just don't match up with either white crowns or golden crowns. It is indeed a drab version of a white-throated sparrow. That's why I put it in here. It's a little more of a challenge than the really bright ones. And you can overlook these birds sometimes because they are drab and they blend into the background. It's another bird you often hear long before you see it. Man, look at these people just nailing these birds.
Well, we got we're going to have some thirsty people here tonight, Tim. Gotta have to make it tough.
I know, I know. Well, there are some tougher slides coming up, so I'm telling you, I should have left that one in there that you made me take out.
Yeah, I know. My bad.
Yes, this is a hermit thrush, an abundant bird, wintertime. Very obliging birds, too. They often let you have good long looks at them. This is kind of an odd angle, but it clearly did not throw you guys off. Okay, this one is in kind of an odd place for this bird. This is not where you would expect to find one. Not exactly what you'd think of as a waterfowl. Aha! Finally, some drinking is going to happen.
This is a tough call in the field sometimes
Yeah,
because it does look like a house finch.
yeah, exactly. It is a finch, and it is either house finch or purple finch. And so then you get down to the fine details. And the reason I threw this picture in is you can see that pale supercilium, the eyebrow, that white eyebrow that it's got. That marks it as a female purple finch. The female house finch has a plain gray face. Catherine's mnemonic for them is they are plain Jane. There we go. Haha, drinking. Good. It's good for you. Here's another easy one. If you see anything this bright yellow at this time of year on this coast, this is the first thing you think of is lesser goldfinch.
This
There
is a
are some
bird that
other,
seems to be more common now than it was 10 years ago.
yeah, isn't it interesting how the two kinds of goldfinches have swapped roles? Everybody understand lesser goldfinches? They're the ones that don't go drab in the wintertime. They they stay bright yellow, and even the females are still fairly yellow. Those two birds on the lower left are females, and they they really stand out. But yeah, you're right, David. There are a lot more of those than there used to be, and there are a lot fewer of these than there used to be. This, of course, is the other kind, the one that Chris calls greater goldfinches to distinguish from lesser. And they do go drab in the winter. There's an enormous change between the winter and summer plumage on American goldfinches and hardly any change at all in lesser goldfinches. These used to be the most abundant goldfinch on the coast. They
Mhm.
greatly outnumbered lessers, and now it's the other way around. See, this is why you want to have a photographer on your team so that you can get a picture of birds like this and still not be able to tell what they are. Actually, you can. This is kind of an interesting shot because you can identify this bird even just from this. Yeah, look at people getting this bird. So here's what it looks like. The nice thing about pine siskins is they will eventually give you a good look. They move around a lot. And the other nice thing about these siskins is they will tell you. That meep. That's pine siskin all the way. I love it. Shannon says they're 3.14 siskin. No, it's pine, not pie siskin. Okay. There's a few of them moving around this year. Not huge flocks like there have been on some years, but we'll get them. They're here for sure. Now we're getting a little trickier. This is a difficult view for this bird. Not too difficult for some people, apparently. But the one nice thing, again, about this bird is that it will constantly verbalize. I like to think of them, to me, they sound sometimes like a recluse typing out a manifesto on an old typewriter using two fingers. Um, Specifically, they sound like they are using an IBM Selectric, but if you're younger than a certain age, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's a ruby crowned kinglet. This is a better view uh, of them, and they give you all angles because they never ever stop moving. That's one of the problems with still photos is you can't capture the movement, but these things are just almost constantly in motion. Fidgety little birds too. Ruby crowned kinglets.
I'd like to point out the key marking on the besides everything Tim just said, which is very easy to identify them. Look at the wing bars on on the bird. There's a white bar above a black bar. One white bar, one black bar. That's gonna matter here in a minute to keep that in
Yep.
mind.
Yep. And there is a video on our YouTube channel that will help you pick these apart from videos. I just added this one
Hmm, nice
uh,
one.
because I just took this photo. Um,
Brown-headed what?
yeah, yeah, it is indeed a tit, but it is not a wren tit. Yeah, it is in fact a bush tit. And one way you can tell is look at what it's perched on. It's on a stalk of rosemary. So that'll give you an idea of scale. These are
Mhm.
tiny little birds, and they occur right now in the wintertime, they occur in flocks generally of about 20. It's kind of unusual to see less than 20 of them at a time. And they talk a lot too. I don't have their call in here, but you'll get them. Everybody knows bush tits. I just wanted to include this picture because they're so freaking cute. Okay, here you go. Now you're gonna have to work, and you might have to minimize pictures of people so that you can see this whole image in order to get all of the birds in here. This is one of those pictures I like because it shows there are birds everywhere, no matter where you are. And also, I like this picture because it has multiple species of birds in one shot. So work your way along the wire and see if you can get them all. I'll just give you a clue. So far, not even Tess has actually identified all of the species on this in this slide. So yeah, the one at the very top, the big one with the yellow eye, that's Brewer's blackbird. And that is one of those birds that's going to get renamed. And my current favorite new name for that bird is pygmy grackle. So then there are also at the very bottom of the picture, you can see that streaky one that a couple of people have correctly identified as red-winged blackbirds. And then the small birds. There are one, two, three, at least four brown-headed cowbirds perched in here among all the blackbirds. So the small brown birds and the small blackbirds with brown heads, those are brown-headed cowbirds with
Is
the
it,
triangular bills.
Yeah, notice the length of the bill on those brown-headed cowbirds. They're stubby, and it
Hmm.
looks like somebody took a pair of scissors to the end of the tail,
Yeah.
clipped it off. Those are the two things that'll stick out, even if you have worse light than this photo.
Yep. And I like including this photo as well because brown-headed cowbirds are actually pretty rare in the Fort Bragg circle in wintertime.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we'll get maybe one. And the way you find them is often in town by just sorting through flocks perched on wires or perched on the roof of a house. Sometimes you'll see a line of blackbirds perched on like Purity or Harvest, and you just work your way down the line and look for a little one because the size difference on cowbirds really does stand out if you're looking for it. But if you're not specifically looking for it, you'll just completely overlook these birds. And that short tail shows up really well when they're perched on wires. Aha, so Shannon's getting all three of these every day. We'll have to make sure and send Matt over to Shannon's house.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's what we had. Brewers, Red Wings, and Cowbirds. Here's another town bird. This picture isn't really in town, but uh, such a lovely picture. It really shows off the bird. It is a mocker, and we have a handful of them in town. And then outside of town, if you're not standing on pavement, you got very little chance of finding one of these birds. Very strange. Northern mockingbird. They're beautiful when they fly. They flash these huge white patches on black wings, unmistakable whenever they fly. Okay, now here you go. It's, this is kind of the other bright yellow bird that you might see. They're not common. In fact, we get maybe only two or three of them on the Fort Bragg count. Do you get them every year in Manchester, David?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Yep, orangey. This is very, very good, you guys. You're doing
Yeah,
good.
those
This
are,
isn't not an easy angle to identify an orange crown
mm-mm.
warbler from, but that's what this is. That yellow chest and green back and that broken eye ring. Well done. Okay, here's an easy one. This is the narcissist bird admiring its reflection. Yeah, Shannon's right. He's going to get an orange crown in the Enchanted Trail because they really love to hang out in that dense shrubbery. You got a huckleberry bush, look through it for an orange crown warbler. Come on, y'all know what this bird is. It's another very abundant bird. I will grant that in this photo, it doesn't look like they usually do. This has got intense sunlight shining on its back, so it's bringing up a kind of iridescence that normally does not appear, and that pale eyebrow is frequently not obvious either. Struggling, drinking, question mark. Ah, finally, we got a hard one for you. You guys are going to hate me when I tell you what this bird is. Everybody giving up? It is common. It is a female. There's your final clue. It's a female. It is, in fact, a female brewer's blackbird. And that's why I included this slide is because female brewers blackbirds, if you don't see them with the males, they can be really cryptic birds.
Really hard.
This one especially is odd with that eyebrow. I really don't know exactly what's going on with that because you hardly ever see that on them. Okay, everybody's getting liquored up now. Oh, we got out of order. I was going to put this one in there after that other, but you guys will get this bird easy. Nope, no Wilsons in the coast in the wintertime.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, Karen's right. It's an orange crown warbler again. I was going to put this after that other one somehow or another I got my slides out of order. This is a little more, a little easier view to identify orange crown warblers with that bright yellow belly and the greenish yellow head and that broken eye ring with that little dark line through its eye. All the marks. We're still in gardens here, gardens and sort of edge habitat. You could be forgiven for thinking this is a harrier,
Mhm.
but it's not. The wings are not long enough for harrier, and it doesn't have that owl face. And it's not a Cooper's hawk either. It's got those crooked wings, that square tail. Yes, this is a sharpshin. I like this because it's just classic sharpshin. It's a juvenile bird, a first year bird with that blurry, streaky chest. The bent wings. One of the great things that Larry Broderick taught us when he did that presentation several years ago now to our
Mhm.
chapter was Sharpies are wristy, and they are almost always when they're soaring. They show this bend at the wrist, and that bend and their short necks and small heads means that if you draw a line between the wrists, their head just barely goes past it. They look like they kind of have their head hunched back into their shoulders. And in this photo, you can see that square tail doesn't have any roundness to it. And that's the other big clue for sharpshins.
And also, thank goodness this is a photo. You wouldn't notice it on a flying bird. Look how big the eye is, how much head space that eye takes up. That's classic sharp-shinned hawk.
Yeah.
A Cooper's hawk, the eye will take up much less space in the head.
And they have that little teeny tiny bill.
Yeah.
And if you see them perched, you can see all those features because they just have this funny little round head and this little teeny tiny bill. They do look surprised. There's a cool meme going around on the internet right now about how to explain the difference between sharp-shinned hawks and Cooper's hawks, and I'll tell you that in a second. Wait, which one is this? So we know it's an accipiter because look at its wingtips. They just barely cover its rump.
Yeah.
You don't get anywhere near coming down onto the tail. So you know it's either a sharpshin or a Cooper's hawk. Duper. Super
Yep.
duper. Yeah, this is Cooper's. So what David was talking about, look how much smaller uh, real estate the eye takes up on this bird than that other one. And the other thing is the head just transitions into the bill. You got a big bill,
Hmm.
kind of a Roman nose. So for a whole bunch more tips and hints on how to tell those apart, check out this YouTube video that I made, and it goes through several of the commonest ways to tell those two species apart because it is not easy at all. It takes a lot of practice.
This is,
Uh,
if we can hold here for a second, take a look at how far the head projects from the plane of the wings on these two birds. You can identify right away which one's the Cooper and which one's the Sharpie. The problem is you got to remember to look at that as the bird flies by.
yeah,
Oftentimes it's gone before, oh yeah, I didn't look at the head.
exactly. In that 1.5 seconds you have to get all this information in. Yep. The Coopers make a cross, and the Sharpies are wristy. Yeah,
Mhm.
when they're soaring, that's a great one when they're soaring overhead. The other thing is when they're perched, uh, the Cooper's hawk looks like Clint Eastwood, and the sharp-shinned hawk looks like Don Knotts. Sharpshins look bug-eyed, and Cooper's hawks look like they've got an "I'm gonna kill you for breakfast" glare. All right, enough about that. Now we're in brush country, and we can't actually see a bird, but if we're lucky, we'll hear it, and it'll sound like this. nasty little noise, kind of a sneery call. Play that again because you're not getting it. That sneer, that descending sneer. That is, oh, okay, now this one right? There you go. Yep, that's rent it. Let me get, this is the bird that was making that nasty sneering call. This is Hutton's vireo. Yeah, which will also get renamed eventually. And my proposal right now, the name, it's not mine. I saw somebody else come up with this one. I thought this was a great one because it really does help. How about monotonous vireo? Because their song is basically just one note they repeat over and over and over again all day long until you're just ready to kill them. So I love that name. So these things, the reason I like to include these in this presentation is these are easy to miss. Shannon says always miss those. Yeah, it's easy to
Mhm.
miss these birds. I think they get undercounted regularly because unlike ruby crown kinglets, I said ruby crowns are constantly in motion. These Hutton's vireos, which look visually a lot like ruby crowns, but they don't act like them. They will perch like this one is and look around and find prey, fly over and grab it, and then perch and eat it. And then they'll go to another perch and look around and find prey. So they kind of work their way through the habitat, but they're perching a lot. And that's very different from the ruby crowns that are just constantly agitating around. And then the other thing is that vocalization, that sneer, the vireo sneer, really sets them apart.
That said, the vireos are usually much quieter. They don't talk nearly as much as the ruby crowns do. So that
That is
goes to the
absolutely
point
true.
of missing them. They're quiet, they're sedentary. Got to be
Yep,
on your best game to find them.
yep. And they're tiny,
Yep,
and they're usually
they're in
hidden
the
down
bush.
inside the bush.
Yep.
Yep. So the reason I included this picture as the background is because there's almost always a Hutton's vireo in this patch of brush. This is in my place, and uh, and so let me play that call again. They frequently in the wintertime do that double sneer. Sneerio vireo. That's a good one, Roger. Sneerio vireo. All right, so some of you heard this other call and identified that, and let's just play that before we go on. This we all know, right? That's wren-tit. But do you know this call? That is the other call of wren-tits. That's the call they make when they're agitated, and it usually means you're in their territory and they want you to leave. They're great little birds, though. All right, so there's your Hutton's vireo,
If you
and
could hold on this for a
yeah,
second,
David.
Tim.
Yeah,
Um, the wing bars. A minute ago, I pointed out the wing bar conformation on the ruby crown, which looks an awful lot like this. Remember, there was a white bar above the black bar, white on top of black. If you look at these two wing bars, it's a very different look. You've got two whites and kind of a meh dark bar in between.
yep,
Uh, so it's easy to confuse them, especially if they're quiet. Check out the wing.
yep, exactly. If you get a good look, it's hard to
Yeah.
get a good look at these birds sometimes. That's the vocalizations are really a lifesaver for these. I probably hear Hutton's vireo probably
Yeah.
6 or 8 times more often than I see one. Why buy it when you can rent it? Okay, here's another brush patch, bramble patch, and this particular bird seems to really enjoy these nasty, thorny kinds of habitat. nasty little, kind of almost like an electronic buzzing sound, really. And that is the agitated calls of this bird. Whoop, okay, yeah, here we go. The soon to be renamed brush wren, currently known as Buick's wren. And yeah, I'm glad that I played that call because it's not a familiar bird to most of us.
Mm-mm.
In the Fort Bragg circle, they're really, really rare. We've had Buick's wren on the count maybe less than a handful of times, I think. I think they're here, but if they don't call, they're super hard to find. And even if they do call, I didn't run through it because we could spend 10 minutes on them. They make, what, 8 different kinds of noises.
Yeah.
Inland, they're really common, really abundant birds inland, and you get to hear all the different noises they make. You get them down in the Manchester count pretty regularly.
Yeah. Very regular.
They're great birds, though. They're really fun. Here's one we saw just the other day. Perched on a bramble. That's a Himalayan blackberry, which this particular bird just absolutely loves. If you got a big patch of Himalayan blackberry, you're almost certainly going to find some of these. Oh, come on, you guys. This is a tough angle, though. Yeah, can't see a whole lot of field marks, but look at that bill sticking out at you. Yeah, Tess says I've been gone too long. That is true, Tess. You have. We miss you.
Yep.
There you
If
go.
this were if this were a video, this would be a much easier ID.
Yeah, absolutely. Another bird that won't sit still. So you get to see all angles of it. Yeah, yeah, you're right. It is, in fact, a house finch. This is a
Mhm.
female house finch. Just a strange angle, but sometimes this is all you get, is this weird angle. But they love these brambles. This is out on the Noyo Headlands where there's a flock the other day of what, 150 was our estimate?
Yeah, if you panned out wider, you'd see about 100 more of these and it'd be easy call.
Exactly. The males, of course, are much easier. It's a tricky angle on this bird,
Hmm.
but I didn't want to make it easy.
Good job.
Yep, good job there. Yep. So we got a raptor. Why is
Hmm.
it not a sharp-shinned hawk? Well, it's not a sharp-shinned hawk, as the people have correctly pointed out, because it's a red-shouldered hawk. But why isn't it a red-shouldered hawk?
Why is it not a red tail? There's a
Yeah, there you
question.
go. Yeah. Doesn't have a black patagial.
Yep.
So again, in the field, you look at this bird. I used to, and probably still do sometimes, confuse these guys with Cooper's hawks because they fly a little bit like them. They have those snappy wing beats,
Hmm.
and they have kind of short-ish wings, but in fact, their wings are much longer than a Cooper's in relation to the
Yep.
rest of the bird. Um, and they have that. If you look on this picture, you can see out just back from the tips of the primaries, there's a pale crescent showing through the wing. And that's a great mark for immature young red-shouldered hawk. The sun will shine right through the wing in that comma or crescent pattern. Yeah, Larry's right. Plus, they're usually screaming. They do
Yeah.
vocalize a lot. I should have put that call in there. The yellow part is called the sear, and red shoulders do have a pretty prominent yellow sear. The other thing you notice on red shoulders in flight is that banded tail, the real pronounced bands with
Hmm.
the dark bands are wider than the white bands in their tails.
And even on young birds, you start to see this, like you see this checkerboard on the back,
Yeah, like this bird,
like just like that.
perched. Yeah, when they're perched, you
Again,
get that real pronounced.
and you know that's a young bird because on the old timers call those red belly hawks. because they are totally red on the front.
Yeah, especially this time of year, they've got new feathers, new plumage, and they're gorgeous. They have this bright orange chest and belly. They're pretty small angles, actually, these birds, red-shouldered hawks. Very common. This is this is a hawk inspecting his fingernails. So yeah, Karen is really nailing these birds.
Yeah.
This is in fact a juvenile or immature merlin. This was taken at the Rose Memorial Cemetery. So for extra credit, yeah, sitting still, very unusual that a merlin will sit still long enough to get pictures. This one sat still because he has just finished eating. So for extra credit, if you look closely, see if I can zoom in on his toe there. So for extra credit, you see that little bit of feather that's stuck to his talon. Identify the bird he just ate. What? Nobody? Okay. He had just finished eating a yellow-rumped warbler, and that is why he sat there and let me walk up and take pictures of him. So merlins, not very many of them around this year, and you have to watch for them. They go
Mm-mm.
small falcons. Here's a nice one, I think, from Roger. So it's a woodpecker because of the way it's stuck on the tree, but you can't see the head, so you can't get any of the clues there. So which kind of woodpecker is this? And it can't be a Nuttall's, Larry. We're on the coast, remember? We don't have Nuttall's over here. So it's going to be either a downy or a hairy or an acorn. And it's got too much white in those wings, so we know it's not an acorn. And so now we got to figure out whether it's a downy or a hairy. And the only clue we've got is down here on the tail. If I can get that centered. Yeah, look right there. This is a tip I got from Roger a few years ago. Only downy woodpeckers have the spots on their two outer tail feathers. And it is surprising how often you can see that. You're up on a tree like this. Those two outer tail feathers will show. D for dots and D for downy. And yeah, it is a great tip. And I got to thank Roger for turning me on to that because many, many times are, I used to struggle to try to see the head, get an estimate of how long is the bill, and they won't turn it sideways and let you get a look, and it's just frustrating. But when that happens, look for the tail. Harry's have just white outer tail feathers, no black spots in them. Well, this one's a little too easy, but I didn't have a more challenging photo of this bird that did not actually show the golden crown, which kind of gives the game away. But this is an unusual photo in that you can hardly ever actually see them, and especially their backs. But this is what they sound like. So those of you who spent too many nights at the Casper Inn in the old days probably couldn't hear that. That's when, yeah, silent. No, I just played the song of the Golden Crown Kinglet, and it is one. It and grasshopper sparrow are probably the two birds you lose first when you age. They're so high pitched. Yeah, beautiful when you can see the back. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
They're just hard to see this angle. Here's another bird of the canopy. See if we can get some vocalization out of this guy. So you guys know that call, and this one and the golden crowned kinglet both are far more often heard than seen. Up in the canopy frequently, very hard to find, very hard to see clearly, but they talk all the time, so that helps a lot. And pygmies, especially the pygmy nuthatch, or yeah, Tess and I are using Chris's terminology, which actually is very descriptive. The alternate name for this really should be short-tailed nuthatch, because that is a great uh, an ID mark. When you see one in flight, frequently you'll hear them and you're looking in the treetops, and then when you see a bird, it's just flitting from one tree to the next too quickly to get any idea of field marks. But when these things fly, they you can't hardly see a tail. Their tails are so short, it really, really sticks out. And yep, their tail is in fact considerably shorter than the tail of red-breasted nuthatches. So short-tailed nuthatch, also known as pygmy nuthatch. And then the third member of the trifecta that you often find all these birds together, sometimes in the same tree. This one will be down low, kind of. There's a certain stratification. The golden crowned kinglet will often be in the very top, the canopy of the tree. The pygmy nuthatches will be halfway down, and this guy will be below them. Yep, this is the brown creeper. There's their call, the two-note call. Can you hear that? Best bird ever. Well, I think turkey vultures are the best bird ever, but these are pretty darn good birds. So they have that high-pitched, clear two-note call. Yep, yeah, exactly. Movement is helpful.
Hmm.
Good one,
Yeah.
Sue. Uh, Creepers I describe as being like an upside down nuthatch because they go up a tree, and nuthatches go down the tree. Okay, let's get some vocalization out of this bird. Yep, there's only one bird that toots that toy horn incessantly. Red-breasted nuthatch, which we have had here on the coast
Hmm.
steadily this fall, and I think they're still around. I haven't heard one for a little bit, but I think they're still around, so we should still get them. Just be aware of that call. And then when you see them, they're just unmistakable, just gorgeous birds with that stripy head. And then here's an easy one. Kind of in the same group, you often find all these birds together in a what's known as a guild or a mixed flock in the wintertime. And this is a bird that is, I think, on the short list to be renamed as soon as possible. And my so far the suggestion I've seen made that I like the best is Cascadian warbler because their range almost exactly maps to the bioregion of Cascadia. But currently their name is Townsend's warbler, unmistakable birds. And we have them everywhere in the trees and bushes. And here is a be on the lookout bird. This year, I think we have a pretty good chance of picking these up somewhere in the Fort Bragg circle and possibly also even down where you are, David.
Yep. Yep. Look and
Yeah.
listen.
Yep, these are yeah, listen. Yep, red crossbills. This is a good year for red crossbills. They're moving around all over the
Hmm.
West, I understand from what I've been reading. There's a place down by San Francisco where they've got, I think, like 8 different races of them in one place. It's amazing. So yeah, fingers crossed. Let's find these for the count. They're always a great bird to find. Really fun bird.
And like the house finch, the laughing and the Canada goose, they'll often vocalize as they fly. So
Yeah,
you'll hear a flock fly over your head up high,
yeah,
rather than right. You won't be able to ID them on the wing, but you can hear them.
yep, exactly. And they frequently will just keep going. They don't give you looks like this very often, actually.
No,
Okay, love this picture from Becky. We've used it several times, but man, doesn't get much better than this. Beautiful Western meadowlark on the wing, those two with the bright white outer tail feathers. Really great birds. Usually in flocks, if you see one, there's probably 12. Bird of the open country. We're moving out of the brush now and getting out into the open country. Several birds are kind of open country birds. It's an easy one, but it's just such a beautiful picture. Again, you're out in the open country in the grasslands. Get this beauty. This is the Savannah sparrow. Lots of these out on the bluffs. David, are they confined to the bluffs down at Manchester, or do you find them in the fields?
no, they're primarily uh, confined to the bluffs. Then there's a kind of a dead space. I have seen them at McGuire's Ranch out of Bald Hill, but not very often. You come to the Calusa with us next year,
Right.
and they're all over the place, and they're actually named for Savannah, Georgia. So they go coast to coast, but there's an odd kind of dead zone about 100, yards from the coast on in, some undetermined length where they just don't show up.
Yep. It is odd, isn't it? Because you go everywhere else in North America.
Yeah.
They're I think the most widely distributed sparrow in North America. Just found everywhere, except between 200 yards from the bluffs and
A mile inland. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
mile or two inland. It's weird. Another one that I just had to include because it's such a great photo from Roger. A great bird. Now, this is a be on the lookout bird because there are very few of them around. They're not doing well, and so it takes some looking sometimes to find them. But there are still a few out in the open country, both in the Fort Bragg Circle and down in Manchester. You'll probably get a handful of them. Yeah, this is the black-shouldered kite, as it used to be known. This is what they look like when they're perched. This is a more like the view you are likely to see, distantly perched on something. Gorgeous little birds. White-tailed kite is what they're called now. Another watch for bird. Be on the lookout for this guy. I just saw an absolutely gorgeous photo of one that Joanne Abramson took just the other day at Virgin Creek.
Mm.
Yeah, we might get that bird that sticks. Yeah, the cinnamon phoebe. That's my so far my favorite alternate name for the Say's phoebe. Yep, favorite salmon-colored bird. Beautiful birds, and they're an open country bird. This is you can see the cattle perched on barbed wire. That's probably half the Say's phoebes I've seen ever
Hmm.
perched on barbed wire. They just love that stuff. Oh, this great photo from David. You took this, right?
Yeah, at Calusa when they were flooding the fields at the end of summer, and all the ground critters were coming to the surface. These guys were having fun.
So there's a trick to this photo. This one's got a catch to it. Yeah, Tess got it. Hmm. And part of the reason that we stuck this one in, even though this picture wasn't taken on the coast, is David did find cattle egrets on the coast just what 2, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, early November.
Yeah, there. Oh, so more than three. Yeah, a month ago
And
there.
we had another down on Garcia Flats.
Yeah, that's right. And that bird might still be around.
Yeah.
I think there's been one cattle egret kind of hanging around down there for a while, but one cattle egret scattered somewhere around the Garcia River flats can be a tough bird to find. So how do you know it's cattle egrets? Which ones are the cattle? That big, tall, long-necked one in the front with the yellow bill is a great egret. The one directly behind it, the small one with the dark bill, is a snowy egret. And then those other guys that are short and short-necked and kind of stocky looking but have yellow bills are the cattle egrets. So that's what you look for from a distance is a short, stocky looking egret. They're kind of compare it here with the snowy. They're about the same size as the snowy, but they just look chunkier.
The necks are much shorter on the cattle egrets, even shorter than the snowies.
And
Plus,
and the
they got
bright yellow
yellow
bill really
bills.
shows.
They look like baby great egrets, and they're
They
not.
really do. Yep. You can pick them out at a pretty good distance. But again, a bird you really kind of have to be thinking about and looking for to see it. Same here. You see a flock of Canada geese, and you tend to just say, "Oh, there's a flock of Canada geese," but you got to look close and pick out the ones that are not Canada geese. And I keep trying to find to get another picture to replace this one with because we've used it for years. And I just did this at Lake Cleone about 2 weeks ago. There was a flock of Canadas come up, and I just glanced at them and said, "Oh, those are just Canadas." And then as they went overhead, I had a camera in my hand, and as they went overhead, I realized there were two cacklers in with them. And by the time I got the camera up, all I got was a shot of their behind. A major size difference between cacklers and the full size Canadas, and it really shows. So when you see a flock of Canadas, you know, you have to count them anyway because this is a Christmas bird count. So while you're counting, check and make sure there and some small ones slipping in there.
I've not been to Mendocino in a couple of weeks. Shame on me. But last time I was there, there were two or three right at the Ford House, I believe it is, on the
Huh?
south side of the main street there in Mendocino. Uh, there were about two or three Canada geese and two or three cackling geese that were feeding on that lawn every day. And it was, you could hear the tourists say, "Oh, look at the baby geese."
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great opportunity to compare sizes and the shape of the bill and everything that goes with the difference between the two species.
Yeah, even if you don't have anything to compare size with, that short, stubby bill and short neck really gives away the cacklers. Oh, back to the raptors. Got a lot of raptors tonight. This one's mainly for the Manchester people, but we could get lucky. Yes, exactly. It is clearly an eagle because it has six emarginated primaries, not five. And it's huge, but you often tell just from a photo how big it is. Which eagle is it? It is indeed a young one. Uh, and so you only have two choices 50-50. It is indeed a bald eagle because bald eagles have all that white in the armpits and the underwings, and a golden eagle never does at any time of any stage of development. Golden eagles never have white in their armpits and wings, and that giant bill sticking way out in front really gives it away. It's amazing how prominent the head and bill can be on bald eagles. You can actually recognize a bald eagle at a tremendous distance just from the outline because their head and bill stick out so far in front of them. Way, way different from any other raptor. This is just a pretty picture. I suppose the reeds and marsh habitat kind of give it away. This is a bird that often confounds people, and there is, in fact, a whole Facebook page, uh, the title of which is the female red-winged blackbird strikes again, and it all it is a place for people to share photos of red-winged blackbirds that people have misidentified as other birds, because it is so easy to do. They don't look at all like the males, and we don't tend to notice the females as much. They aren't nearly as
Yep,
obvious and
it's true.
showy, but they are brown and streaky and they have that eye line and they're in red-winged blackbird habitat. Now, what do we got going on in here? We have two species of birds in this photo. Yeah, a couple of you got the rare one right off the bat. So the bird dead center coming right at us with the solid red epaulets is a red-winged blackbird, and specifically it is the California bicolored race of red-winged blackbird. And that's significant because that is the race that we have here. I don't know if I've ever actually seen any of the other races of red wings. And so that makes it
Mhm.
easier to identify tricolored blackbirds when you see them, because tricolors have those white margins on the red epaulets of their wings. And the confusing thing is that the other kind of red-winged blackbird that has a yellow margin to the epaulet, in late summer, that yellow has faded out and it will look white. And so trying to tell red wings from tricolors in July and August can be extremely difficult. But fortunately, it is winter and we don't have that other kind of red wing. We only have bicolors. And so a tricolor will really jump out at you. Yeah, I think there probably is an immature out there in the far right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. But those trikes really, really jump out. And the trikes do sound different. Yeah, Larry's right. They got a real different sound. Um, Hard bird to find in our circle, in Fort Bragg circle. I think you got a better shot down Manchester.
Mhm.
This is actually a flock in Albion. Oops, whoops, whoops, whoops. What happened here? Quit that. All right. We have here. Snipe indeed. How many? Yep, more than
Yep,
one. Good one.
yep.
I'll
That's good.
accept any number above two. Two above one, actually. Hard to say how many there are in here, but there's at least two. That's a great picture of Wilson sniping it. We don't need to dwell on them too much, but they're scattered around in our circle anyway. We've got them on the headlands. We've got them at Casper.
Mhm.
Any place where you got wet grass, you might find these things. I do not know why the page down works sometimes and not other times. There we go. Another multi-species shot for you. Oh no, your glass is empty.
No.
Time to refill. Nice. Yep. Rudu and Wodu. Female wood duck on the left with that beautiful highlighted eye, teardrop eyeliner, and the Drake ruddy duck there on the right. It's winter clothing. Casper Pond. Now we're getting to the really great birds.
Okay, lock the doors. No one leaves.
Yeah, everybody refill your glasses too.
Yeah, really. Go get a fresh one. You're going to need it.
Uh, so what do you notice about this bird? It's got kind of pale pink legs. It's got a gray head, bright yellow bill. Look at the wings.
Hmm.
There are no black in the primaries on the wing, but it's a white bird, so it's in adult plumage. Doesn't have a white head, so it's not a western gull.
That's right.
Doesn't have black in the wingtips, so it's not any of the others. This was the second gull that I was ever able to identify. The first was western because David taught me. In the Mendocino Coast, in wintertime, any gull, large gull with a pure white head is a western gull. They're the only ones with pure white heads in winter. This one is the only large gull with wings that are gray all the way out to the tips and no black on them. This is glaucous winged gull. And they're fairly common, not quite as numerous as westerns, although a bunch of them have moved in right now.
Hmm.
There's a lot of them on the coast. The tricky thing, and I didn't include that because that's getting a little too out there, is there are a bunch of hybrids showing up. Hybrid between this bird, the glaucous wing gull, and the western gull. It's a hybrid called Olympic gull, and there's a lot of them out there right now. Most of them look like glaucous wing gulls, so if you put them down as that and count them that way, I won't hold it against you. Yeah, that white tail is, yeah, it's tough, but just check those wingtips out. This is an unusual view of a fairly common bird.
Hmm.
And a bird that you sometimes kind of have to look for. Yeah, Karen got it again. Yeah.
Yep. Good.
Osa. This is the spotted sandpiper with that eye ring and the interesting wing pattern. That little narrow white stripe in the wing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish we could do video with Zoom. I've just never seen a Zoom presentation. Roger's drinking. Ooh, I feel my night is complete now if I stumped Roger.
I understand Roger's situation. This looks very much um, like a wandering tattler, which unfortunately, a wandering tattler is a bird that only passes through primarily in the fall. So we never really get that familiar with the bird. And it looks an awful lot like this. But if you were to
Except
see it in real life, the wandering tattler is a little longer. It's a larger bird.
larger and grayer, and I don't
Yeah,
believe wandering tattler has that white stripe in the wing.
probably not. But again, it goes to the fact that we'll see three or four a year. And
You know, on last year's Fort Bragg Christmas bird count, uh, Esme Placencia,
yeah,
found three wandering tattlers at Glass Beach.
they
Got
were
photo,
lost.
got
They were
photographs of
lost. Oh,
it. It was a great find,
I guess.
fantastic find actually. Okay, spotted sandpiper. That's what
Yep.
that guy is. Takes you a while just to find the bird in this photograph, huh? Yeah, sure. Yes, yes, very good. Very good. Down here on the beach,
Yep.
a little washed out robin-like bird.
Yep. Surf robin.
American surf robin, American pipit. They really do look like a thrush.
Yeah.
Back to the fun birds. Look at you guys nailing these birds.
And that's Larry, Curly, and Moe up there.
Yeah. See, David, I told you we should have put the other one in that was harder.
Uh, I underestimated this crew, I have to tell
Yeah.
you. They've been coming on too many bird walks.
Yep, yep. And studying our videos, no doubt.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
So the guy down there, yeah, there we go. Somebody finally got the fourth bird. Nice one. Shannon picked out the shadow. So in the lower right, that small one with the little short bill is in fact a short-billed gull, formerly Mew gull, and that one's an adult. The bird in the middle with the dark gray mantle and the pure white head is a
Hmm.
western gull, and the bird behind it, its wings up, and the dirty head, and that bill with the red and black, the prominent black and red tip is the California gull. Notice its greenish, yellow-green
Yep.
legs, dead giveaway for Californias. There are hundreds and hundreds of them in flocks on the coast right now. They're by far the most abundant gull. Like for but you look close and it's got feet and a bill, and it does look like a shadow. That is, of course, the black oyster catcher. Kind of photobombed the picture. We
This
can,
might be a good time to point out one of the rules. There are rules to Christmas bird counts. And one of the rules is if you don't know, if you can't identify the bird to species, like there are a bunch of young gulls and you're just not that into young gulls, count them as gull spa. They still count. It's
yeah,
still part of the Christmas bird count effort. We don't want to lose that information, but don't be intimidated by the fact that you can't tell a first year Western from a first year herring gull. It's all right. They're
yeah,
gulls.
exactly. All of us do that. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm really into gulls right now, but probably more than half of the gulls I see on the Christmas bird count are going to go down as gull spa. You just don't have time to work them all out. Last year we did that. I think my guess is I should have looked it up. Last year, gull spa might actually have been the most abundant bird on the Fort Bragg
Could have
Christmas
been.
bird count
Yeah.
because we went out on the Kraken. It was a nice calm day, and we got out over the Casper High Spot, and there were about 2,000 gulls
Yeah.
working bait fish. You ain't gonna go through all that and identify each and every one of them.
Mm-mm. No.
Not even with Bob Kiefer on the boat. So we had about 1,500 gull spas. So yeah, good point, David. The point of a Christmas bird count is to count all the birds. Somebody a few years ago said, I just got tired of counting robins and stopped counting them. No, 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 no. You can't.
Uh,
You got to keep counting the robins. It's really important to get an accurate count on the common
yeah.
widespread birds because that really conveys a lot of information about how the birds are doing. Yeah, gulls are hard. When you see a bunch, are you looking for numbers or anomalies? So for the Christmas bird count, you're really looking for numbers first, I think.
Hmm.
Try to get an estimate. I mean, you're going to see a flock if you're on the coast and it's the right tide. You'll see a flock of 2, 3, 400 gulls in one bunch. So first thing you do is just try to get an estimate of how many there are. And then you can start working through it and figure out, okay, how many of these can I identify? And you can start with the fact that 80 to 90% of them in a big flock like that are going to be California gulls. So what your job now is figure out how many of these are not California gulls. So pick
Oh,
out some westerns.
yep. All the white-headed ones are Westerns. That makes it easy.
Hmm? And they help because they're big and obnoxious, so
Hmm.
they don't hide. Glaucous winged gulls are every bit as big as a western, sometimes bigger. So you look for big ones that don't have black in the wingtips. So you can add those species. Then you look for the little cute ones that are out there on the edge of the flock. They don't mix with the other gulls, and those will be the short-billed gulls. And then once you got that, then you start looking to see if you can pick out a herring gull. And when you get that, then you start looking to see if you can find an Iceland gull.
or a blackleg kittiwake.
Yeah, if you're on a boat
Oh,
or a Bonaparte's.
yeah,
Yeah, we should do a whole presentation. We should do a gulling field trip, actually. We thought about that. And
yeah.
it's hard because the gulls move around. So you tell people, let's all meet at this spot, and you go there and there aren't any gulls there. So, oh, good. Yeah, Tess, bring back a lesser blackback. That'd be great. We could really use one. Another tricky bird. I'll give you a second to look at this flock, and then if you want, I can zoom in.
I'll give you guys a clue. Don't fall for the trap that I fell into. They're all one species. Don't look for the weird bird.
Yeah, I already did that. I went through this picture for about 20 minutes. Dead certain there had to be one in here that was not an eared
Yeah,
grebe.
yeah.
Yep, these are eared grebes. Zoom in a little, and you can see that the eared grebe look. They're swimming in a current, and so they don't have their butts sticking out of the water. But normally, when you see them bobbing around, David's mnemonic is great. He calls them reared grebes. Usually, their butts stick up. But I just saw somebody else say that they kind of look like they're wearing the old-fashioned earmuffs, the fuzzy earmuffs that come down over their ears.
Good call.
Yeah. Whereas the horned grebe, which is the other one of the same size that is frequently found in the same areas and is very hard to distinguish from these, they have a real sharp horizontal distinction between the black top of the head and the white
Hmm.
lower part of their head. These
People
ear
say
grebes.
that these birds have a dirty neck, and what that
Yep.
means is just what Tim just said. There's no clear line of demarcation between the paler front of the neck and the darker back of the neck.
Yeah, you
And
can see that.
that's helpful.
Yeah. You really see that in this slide too, actually.
They just kind of blend like a female red-breasted merganser.
Kind of, yeah. They both have red eyes, which is kind of creepy but cool.
Yeah.
Now, in this case, we do have a multi-species slide. So we have, yep, of course, we have surf scoters flying like they always do in these nice lines. Right in the males with their bright orange comedy beaks. And and then there's two in there that don't have the all black wings that are showing those big white patches. Those are white winged scoters. And this is a be on the lookout bird. When you see scoters fly by, don't just write them all off as scoters, but sort through the flock. And if you're super duper lucky, uh, I think we've had white winged scoter on the Fort Bragg count maybe twice. Do you get them more often in Manchester, or is
I
it?
think we do. Yeah.
Huh.
If we have scoters. Yeah.
Well, you've got Chuck and those guys sea watching off of Point Arena. That gives you a big
Yeah.
advantage. Yeah, yeah,
They're very mobile birds, though. Sometimes our scoter count is way down.
yeah.
So
That's true. They
it's
do. Yeah.
like gulls.
Yeah, David was looking through this, trying to turn one of these into a black scoter, and we could never really be certain about one. We can't find a male, a
No.
drake in here, and we can't really find a female with the white. Well, it's not white, but females have got a kind of a gray cheek, and so there might be a female in there that's partially behind one of the other ones. Couldn't be sure. But yeah, good call, Shannon. That's the other thing to look for. And black scoter is actually more likely up here
Yeah.
in Fort Bragg County, especially where you and Lisa will be, and also Charlene and Sean up off
Hmm.
Fort Avenue. That is the by far the
Yeah.
best place to get black scoter up here.
Yep.
Okay, we're almost to the end, so you guys have endured us. And so we thought we'd throw in a ringer with these black skimmers from down at San Diego. Yep, that's the constant background noise. If you spend any time on the shore, on the Mendocino shore, you are going to be hearing the black oyster catcher, our iconic bird of the Mendocino coast. Guess what? You survived it.
We still have a half hour to go, Tim.
You know, if people really want more of this, I'll put it up to a vote. I actually did make an extra credit presentation. So I have the extra slides that we didn't put in. And if you want, we can run through those. Oh, look at this. Do it.
Hit me,
All right,
hit me again.
let's see if I
We have
can.
shall we talk about before we lose everybody, talk about the post-count dinner? Post-count
Yes,
dinner? Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Thank you. I had intended to put a slide in, and uh, I could not find it in
Oh,
time. I don't know where my slide went. So let me get this started here first.
so while Tim's working on that, I'll just start the conversation. One of the most enjoyable parts of the Christmas bird count, especially when the weather's bad, is the after count dinner. So on each count this year, we're going to have a post count compilation dinner. The Fort Bragg count, we will meet at the Casper Community Center, and that will be both counts will be catered, meaning that you don't have to do potluck. And we'll join at the Casper Community Center right around dark, and we'll have some food, and then we'll group all of our sightings together. For the Manchester count, in recent years, we've met at Druids Hall in downtown Point Arena. Druids Hall is undergoing finally long belated renovations. So this year we're going to meet at St. Anthony's Hall, uh, which is in Point Arena, but it's on Highway 1 just before you drop down the hill into Point Arena. There's a Catholic church, St. Aloysius, and St. Anthony's Hall is right next door. There's easy parking. It's a very superior building in terms of comfort. And we will be open. The doors will be open probably around 4:30, 4:15. And when Tim finally drags in from Elk and quits chewing, we will start the count. So y'all welcome. And that's the schedule for this year.
Yeah, thanks, David. Uh, and on the Casper thing, I forgot to mention the start. We are looking for some help with the count dinner, with opening the hall up for the Casper Community Center for Saturday, December 30th, the Fort Bragg count. Uh, because Matt and Angela, who have heroically run the hall for us for years and years and years and years, and they can't do it this year. So all we need is somebody who can get there probably around 3 or so and unlock everything, just get the hall opened up, get the heat turned on, and be ready to maybe go and get hot lasagna, pick it up at Harvest Market. That's our current plan. So we'd need somebody to do that probably around 4:30 or 5 o'clock. Probably 5 o'clock is our target time to pick that up, and then we'd be ready to serve it when you get back to the hall with it. So it's not a lot of work, but it is really vital, and it makes you look heroic to all of us that are out in the field all the
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah.
We get
Yeah.
there and there's a warm hall. So if you would like to contribute, but you don't feel like marching around in the wind and rain all day long, that is a great way to go. Ooh, I got a volunteer already. Thank
Yes,
you,
you
Mary
do.
Ellen. That would be
Oh,
fantastic.
Mary Ellen gets a gold star.
Yep, absolutely. I will be in touch. Thanks, Mary Ellen. All right. And then one more thing I wanted to say, and this is the slide that was missing. I was trying to find a slide that I've used in the past of the count dinner at Casper, and it's a great photo of one of our longtime members that one of the guys who actually started the chapter and passed away here recently. I think probably everyone knows, but I just wanted to take a moment and just remember Art Morley, uh, who was such a great guy and a great birder and a great part of Christmas bird counts for longer than I've been doing them for sure, and just a legend in his own time. So I want to thank Art for all that he did for me personally and for the Mendocino Coast Audubon Society as well. And as well as all the other nonprofits on the coast. Art was, I called him Superman because he was involved in so many things at once. So what a great life he lived, long and full life, and I think he enjoyed it a lot. And so just what a wonderful memory that he left. Thanks, Art. The weed warrior, yeah, indeed. He was digging out pampas grass well into his 90s. Okay, you guys all ready for the extra credit? I bet you are, some of you anyway. We'll start with some easy ones. This is an easy one. I know Larry's going to like this one. This is one of the great conservation success stories of the 20th century. Wait, are you seeing it, David?
No, this is the
Oh.
sunset that never dies.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Let me stop sharing and then start sharing again. Aha. There we go. How's that?
Oh,
Is that better?
much. Good job.
Okie doke. It's an easy one. Yep, Peregrine Falcon. Great conservation success stories of the 20th century. Bird we see on both counts regularly. Another bird that we regularly see on both counts. I throw this in because this is a common way you see them, and you cannot see the thing they're named for, but you can see that it has a dark head and a pale chest.
Mhm.
Another thing I learned from David. That's all you need for a red-tailed hawk. Now we're in my backyard
Ooh,
again.
a little more difficult.
Yeah, just got a little harder. I should put this one on crappy bird photos.
Well, I would know this bird if it was in focus.
Yeah, probably true, actually. The only thing you can see, a bird in flight. Oh, somebody got it, actually. Yeah. So you can see that it's a small bird because you can compare it to the grass. You know, it's not a big bird, it's a little bird. It's kind of dark, it's kind of brown on the back, and it's got white outer tail feathers, racing stripes. What bird would that be? That is a dark-eyed junco. Those white racing stripes really show when they fly.
Yep.
Yeah, Tess, David and I were talking, we should do like a what's this bird thing, but neither of us has time for it. Yeah, the racing stripes. You just see a
Yep.
flock of them fly away, count them, dark-eyed juncos.
Yep. Ah,
Gorgeous, isn't it? Man,
Central Valley bird.
I think this might have been taken here on the coast.
Ooh.
Not sure. No, you're right. It is a Central Valley. Yeah, this is a Central Valley shot. But we have had them on the Fort
Hmm.
Bragg count. Art,
Yeah.
in fact, Art
Yeah.
used to get these birds at a pond for about 3 years in a row. He would
Yeah.
find Eurasian widgeon is
Yep.
correct. Yeah,
Beautiful
beautiful
bird.
shot with an orange head and the horizontal white stripe on the side there. Yeah, look for him on Cleone. Yeah.
Got the eye light in this photo too. That's great.
Yeah, we could get lucky on them. Art, like I said, Art used to find them at this pond out there off of
Hmm.
Coast Lane, I think. A little trickier, but not that tricky.
No.
Yeah, yeah, with that white, that vertical white stripe and the little buffy flanks. Yep, these are green winged teal, drake and a hen green winged teal. Very common birds. All right, hot shots. Golden butts. I like that for green winged teal.
I'm going to go greater on this one. I could be wrong, but I'm basing my guess on the more on the size of the bill than the shape of the head. Could be lesser.
Yeah, it is definitely a scaup. And I actually had this bird identified in the field, and I should have notes because I've forgotten now. But I believe that you're right, David. I think this is a greater scaup because it's got that high round head
Hmm.
instead of the low hunched look. Alvaro in his duck
It,
thing threw this
it,
in great detail, and that's how I was able to
yeah,
conclusively identify this bird. And then that's information you have to just keep using in order to retain it.
yeah, yeah. The length and the narrowness of the neck is what he was going on about the greater.
Mm-hmm. Yep, long neck and that
Short,
high round
squat
head,
neck for the lesser.
and it doesn't have that little poinky out bit at the back.
Yeah, good,
Yeah,
good bird though.
there is sometimes a difference in the color of the head, but as you can see from this photo, you frequently can't see that because you have to have exactly the right light for that sheen to show up. Oh, Roger thinks we're wrong, and
Yeah, well, it, this is like the same thing like accipiters, only harder.
Roger, however, has been drinking.
Ah, well, we can hit him with a long bill, short bill dowitcher photo. See how he does on that.
Yeah, no, I think Roger's right. I think we've got a lesser here because the greater is the one that should show that little pointy bit on the back of the.
Scop spa.
Yeah, that's what they almost always get counted as. Scop, spa, greater
Yep,
slash lesser on eBird.
yep,
Yeah, tricky bird for sure. Okay, it's an easy one.
yeah.
The one on the left, obviously, is super easy, and that is definitely not its chick on the right. That on the right, I'll give you a clue, is a juvenile.
Mhm.
Yep, it is a juvenile black-crowned night heron. Somebody else had guessed green heron, and interestingly, about 100 yards to the right of these two birds, there was a green heron.
Mm.
This is out at Gray Lodge. So we got great blue heron and black crown night heron. And black crown night heron we do get on the Fort Bragg count at Noyo Harbor. There frequently are some either at the boat basin or up at Dolphin Isle. So if we get kayakers in the river, there's a really good chance that they will find black crown night herons. Sometimes if we don't have anybody in the river, they can be really hard to find. They're there, but they're hard to find. Oh, back to the gulls. So this is another one from Becky. Yeah, definitely Bonaparte butt.
Yep,
Mm, with
yep.
that black trailing edge. Beautiful little birds. Haven't seen many of them this year.
Mm-mm.
There we go. This is the one I
Yeah.
was going to put into the other show. Yeah, so many good picks from Becky. Yeah, no kidding.
I tried to shield the crowd from this photo.
This is taken at Van Dam just about a week ago. Herring, ugh. You're right. There is a herring in
Yeah,
that one
yeah,
on the right. The pale
yeah,
back, the really dirty, smudgy head and
yeah,
neck, that mean looking glare. Because they have the pale iris, and that makes them just look kind of evil. But
yeah.
there's only one herring. Yeah, now we're getting somewhere. And then, of course,
Yeah.
the one in the front, the blurry one, pure white head, dark gray back, that's a Western. That little guy standing on the gravel bar to the left with the little short bill is, in fact, a short-billed gull. What's the one in flight? Nope, the one up top is a California. It's the abundant California gull.
Mhm.
There actually isn't an Iceland gull in this. I've been trying to find an Iceland gull at Van Dam for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I have not yet picked one out. Probably has been one there. I just haven't been good enough to find it. There got to be some Iceland gulls around. They're just hard to tell apart from. The Iceland gull kind of looks like a smaller herring that doesn't have an evil eye. They have a dark eye, but otherwise they look a lot like herring gulls to me. But that short-billed gull on the left, that's a hatchier bird. That's a young bird.
Enough.
So tricky bird to identify, actually. Another Becky photo. This is a bird y'all were talking about earlier. Yeah, very good.
Yeah,
This
you're
is
right.
indeed a wandering tattler.
You're right
See what
about
I mean?
that. You're right about that lack of white in the wing.
Yeah, just all gray,
It's all
just
gray. I
gray bird.
remember that now. All gray back.
Hmm. Bigger
Yeah.
bill.
Yep.
And they kind of look like that when they're perched too. They're just a big gray shorebird.
Yeah.
They show you a lot of field marks. Yeah, and they're worth watching for because we got
Yeah.
lucky last year. That was really unusual. But Becky has had the contention that they're more common than we think. That they get overlooked a lot because if you're not looking for them, you really can miss these birds.
Yeah, and they like to be in the rocks, which is a tough place to find things.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot easier to find a bird on a sandy beach than it is in amongst the rocks. So, yeah.
And they exactly, Roger just said just what I was gonna say. They move kind of slow, so you can kind of miss them because they're not as
Hmm.
frenetic as a lot of the other shorebirds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad we actually got to the extra credit because this is a good bird, good photo, and
Yeah.
I mean, this I think is the hardest of the whole batch. I had this in the main presentation, and David made me take it out. He said it was too hard. And this is a bird that we get, I think we've gotten on the Fort Bragg count twice. Do you get these on the Manchester count?
Yes. Yes. I think Ron had the last one.
Uh, Ivory-billed woodpecker. Ah, very good.
It's, it's
Shannon,
not a house sparrow.
Shannon needs to take a drink. Yeah, Karen's on the right track here. Look at what's going
Mhm.
on with the head,
Oh, wait a minute.
chestnut color in the crown, and that greenish yellow on the rump. And Sarah nails it.
Look at the big brain on Sarah.
Yeah. Well,
Whoa.
see, Sarah has an advantage because she was down there at the slack tide all of last winter when that palm
Uh,
warbler spent the entire winter hanging out at the slack tide cafe. Never went anywhere else. Yeah,
uh,
very good, Sarah. This is a tough bird to identify from this particular angle, this photo. It does show you the field marks, but it doesn't really show them very well. I asked Roger for a bad photo of a palm warbler, and this is what he gave. Yeah, so keep an eye on them. Now, the other thing, this is another bird that would be a lot easier to identify if we could play a video, because
Yeah.
one of the things about palm warblers is they constantly pump their tails, and it's you just cannot miss it. And when you see a bird like this that's just constantly moving its tail, think palm warbler and see if you can turn it into that. So yeah, if y'all want to see a lot of photos of palm warblers, hit Roger up. He's got 200 just like this. And Larry, yep, these are not super rare. Uh, I would say that in an average winter, we'll find, one or two.
Yeah.
There maybe every other, maybe half of winters we have palm warblers and half the time we don't, or maybe a little more than half we get them. So they're not at all common. Okay, I think this is the last slide on this. This one's from Feather. This is actually, I think, taken on the Manchester Count.
Yeah.
Stornetta in the background there.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. See, how many species did I have in here?
Intail.
I think I had at least 7 species of birds in this image. Yep, there's pintails in there. Obviously Canada geese. And there's at least one cackler. And there's a bunch of mallards. There's quite a few pintails, actually. And maybe I can zoom in and see what else we can pick out. So yeah, now right here in the dead center, there's some obvious pintails, some drakes,
Yeah.
and pintail. And there's
There's a
mallard one here.
smaller one right in there
Yes,
below
exactly.
that.
But what's going on up here? These are the birds I was looking at earlier. Look at this guy.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. And I don't think we can
Uh,
zoom in much more.
huh.
That almost looks like a blue-winged teal, but it could be a shoveler.
Yeah.
But I think what it probably is a cinnamon. Tricky bird though, isn't it?
It feels like a female shoveler right just to the left of your head there.
It does. Yeah. Over here.
Yeah. Yeah. That
This
one.
bird right here.
That
Yeah.
one right
Yeah.
there.
I agree. Yeah. And shovelers show blue on the
Yeah.
wing too, so that could be a shoveler.
Yep.
Tricky bird. This guy with green on the wing. There's some more of those, I think, down here. Yeah, there's one.
Yeah, there's that looks like a green wing right there.
A number of green-winged teal down here. Some more pintails. Something here. I don't have any idea what that is. Let's see. What are we up to? Okay, here we go. What do we have right here? This looks like a gadwall to me.
Hmm.
More shoveler and more green wings. Heck of a photo, huh? A lot going
Well,
on.
before they before they improved the drainage down there on the Stornetta, that was a real puddle duck magnet in the winter with the tundra swans. We used to get all kinds of duck in those fields. Then they improved the drainage, and the ducks moved somewhere else. But
Yeah.
it's a great shot.
Yep. Small bird on the left middle. This guy over here.
Yeah.
You know you're with bird geeks when you end the photo like that. No kidding.
Love it.
Yeah, what is that little duck? Yeah, that'd be my guess. Green wing teal.
Well, there's some marks there.
It's small.
Yeah. White trailing wing, that
There's
prairie falcon armpit.
Yeah, it kind of does have a prairie falcon axillaries. Yeah, it's not a prairie falcon. I'm fairly sure of that.
No, no.
I was trying to find a widgeon somewhere in this photo, and I never did. But there are several of these. These are Drake greenwings here. Yeah, that bird's very, very small.
Yeah. Huh. All
Just
right.
not quite enough resolution. All right, you guys, that's all I got.